Good evening and welcome to my end of the week recap video here for Apple and plan ahead for earnings this week. Okay, first of all, on Monday, per my previous plan, I was looking for a break above all my moving averages. Triggered me into some November 2nd 220 calls at about 7:15. Half of those were taken off up here once it tagged $8. In hindsight, of course, should have taken all of it off. Tuesday, we had a nice gap down, put those very red below what I actually initially got into. Waited, had a nice inside hour candle here set up. I added those position, added to that position at 540, which took my average down to about 6.25. Held those to the end of the day. Didn't take any off at the end of Tuesday. Wednesday, when we had this, what looked like it was going to continue higher, started to roll back down through here. I put my stop here right around where the 50 SMA was. Rolled down through it, took me out half the position anyways here at $8. And I've wanted to hold some of these for an earnings swing, so I'm just kind of managing the position as best I can for a move through earnings. Added to those there on Wednesday and the end of the day at $5, so it took my average down to just over $6. Nice move up higher on Thursday. Did not take any off here this day. Of course, in hindsight, would have been a good idea to do so. And then today on Friday, gap down as well. On the 30-minute basis, we had a nice, I believe it was an inside bar that I added above at 470. So my average is just under $6 right now. So not hurting too bad on these. I'm down about $1.50 on these calls. So with that, I'm essentially a little bit green with the profits that I've taken off a couple of times here. So hopefully, which is a word I hate using as far as when I'm talking about one of my trades, but hopefully I have a nice move higher on Monday. I can take some more off and hold a couple more for earnings. And on to the trade plan I'm looking for. I'm not looking to add anything else immediately. On a break above this level here, this green area, which is again this quad witching volume, I will take some more off of there and trail the remainder, use a trail stop on the remaining contracts. I have this line drawn here because if that breaks, that tells me this little intermediate trend has broken and was probably going to start to climb a little bit higher, at least test this previous high of around 224, which would give me a nice green move on some of these calls. This line, excuse me, once it broke, I wasn't necessarily expecting a move higher, just sideways, and we've got that very nicely in an $8 range in a period of a couple of days. So anyone who was buying 215, selling around 222, 223 has made some very good money over the past 5 to 7 trading days. Also have this green block down here on the daily time frame. It's easier to see. We had a broadening pattern set up, so we had the initial high, first low, failed to make a new high, put a new lower low in, put in a new higher high, new lower low. So theoretically, I'd be looking for a move up here to around 237-ish area. Most likely going to need earnings as a catalyst to even come close to moving that way. However, thinking about all the other names that have been reporting, Apple's not too likely to go ahead and continue higher. It's probably going to gap up a little bit and then sell off just like almost every other name has done this earnings season. But anyways, long lower wicks here at lows. A lot of significant volume you can see right here has come in at the lows, which is indicated by this green block again. So after hours, there's actually quite a bit of volume right here. It doesn't really show up here on the intraday time frame. But again, on what was this, Tuesday, I believe, nice volume here on lows. And again today, once it dipped down in that level, had an extreme amount of volume again as well. So looks like this 213, 214 area, there is a lot of participation, a lot of interest at buying at that level. If price action happens to break down below there, if it gaps below, it's going to be the worst. Most likely there's going to be a lot of stops triggered. So a gap below here is probably going to drop it down to this 206 to 205 area, at which point I will most likely close out of my 220s, eat the loss, which is going to suck, and look for a play in, excuse me, for the earnings in these 210 calls around this 206 to 208 area. And below there is the 200 SMA. I'll look for 195 calls about 4 weeks in the future now. So right now, those are the plays I'm looking at adding into for Apple. And zoom out to the higher time frame just to get an idea of what's going on overall on the chart here. Yeah, I can clear some of this off. First of all, today we put in an outside month. We created a wide range that took out the high and the low of September. Not necessarily reverse the type of pattern, however, this is or could be looked at as a hanging man, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, and now followed by what as of right now is a bearish engulfing bar. if price action, if earnings comes out and absolutely blows everybody away, and this turns green, that turns into a green engulfing bar, and it's another one of these two candle flags. You got to move up, sideways, and a flag, and a continuation. So that is a potential possibility right now. Could also be looked at as a top. Simple as that. Even tops in Apples, as we zoom out here, aside from a few times, tops have only simply led to pullbacks here in 2012, strong pullback, 2015, another strong pullback, and now we're back up here to new all-time highs. So in between 2015 and now, you can see Apple made numerous all-time highs before an eventual pullback here. The last big move down that engulfed any price action was this month here in February of this year, and it was at first a huge red bar, taking out a lot of price action, took out 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 full months of the previous year, and then it turned green and ripped back up higher. So even though we have an outside red bar right now, doesn't guarantee us that we're going to have an ugly continuation through the rest of the year. It is possible, I will say, but earnings is coming up, and it's going to be a catalyst to move it one way or the other. As I said, could sell off on China news. It all depends on how they guide. That's everything that's affecting all of the earnings now. Even companies that report great earnings, any single mention of negative impacts on China trade, tariffs, is having a negative effect on their price action. So keep that in mind. Looking for a move higher to go ahead and reduce my size, and we'll go from there. So let's see if there's anything notable on the weekly time frame here. Not necessarily. We had this bar here, excuse me, in October, beginning of October, excuse me, put in a wide range bar. So essentially we have a range. And as I said, this is indicative of waiting, waiting for price action to do something, some sort of catalyst, something to change. Hopefully, we have great earnings and Buffett comes out and says he bought more. That will help my cause tremendously. So this will be my trade plan and what I'm looking at for next week going into earnings. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down below. Have a good weekend and good luck on Monday.